An individual can never be intelligent because it operates from the self, standing in a point looking at the world, while the universe is the world. And when that operates through the point, it will be coherent. It will be in balance. It will come from the context, and it will never act from self-interest. The intelligence of self-interest stops with the individual, right? It has no value for the universe beyond that point of the individual. And as we figure out, as we grow spiritually, and many of you have expressed this to me over the years, that you're starting to find yourself so boring. And the concept of the self and the ego is like, oh, because it's not really interesting. It's like trying to stare at one point, trying to figure everything out. And this is what we do when we operate from the self. We're looking at one point, trying to understand the universe, and saying that point is so important. Whatever you look at in this world, it can be a rock or a flower or, a tree, or a cup, a chair. It doesn't represent all of it. It's the same thing when we act from the self. We're just this one thing, and we think it's so important. And we get to a point where we understand, there's more to it. We have to explore beyond staring at one thing. And there's more to explore than what we can do from the self. Now, staring at this one point and trying to understand the world from that point, it just gets in the way. It really does. Because it means you will interpret everything from that, piece of gravel or that whatever it is you define yourself as. And you will see it just like, when we are in human form, we have a tendency to interpret the universe from the perspective of the human. Right? And thinking that all intelligent beings they have to be humanoid, right? They need to operate like we do. And we think that more advanced beings, they would behave just the way humans would if they had more power, than being dangerous, trying to conquer, and humans have a hard time. Like just look at all the movies with aliens, They behave the way humans would behave if they were in that exact position. Not understanding that with higher intelligence and consciousness comes a different understanding of the purpose of life. Not understanding that there are cultures who have been part of this planet from the very beginning, seeding it, developing life forms, developing cultures, because that's what you do. It's how you, tend to your garden. It's also been creating new life forms, just like humans can create new flowers and new species of whatever it is. You continue to do that, but with greater intelligence. So you become part of how the universe creates. It doesn't just happen. So you let the intelligence of the universe gradually replace your own, which means that there is less self and more universe. And many of you have already experienced this. Often, when you talk to other people, right? All of a sudden you say things you don't understand as a person, right? But you can hear yourself say it and you know it's true. But you as a person have no idea what you're talking about and why and what this is, right? You've all had this experience. And it's that. It's intelligence of the universe gradually coming in and taking over. Because the intelligence of a person can only go so far and really has nothing interesting to give anyone else because the individual does not operate from context, right? So that's part of the expansion of awareness. First, you have to develop your own intelligence as far as it goes, but then you have to let the universe replace it. And it's a natural process. It's going beyond that little speck of dust that we are as individuals. Understanding there's more to explore, right? And the thing is, when we operate from the self, we always see, well, how does this operate, in comparison or relation to that speck of dust? We always start with the self, our definition of our life form and all of that, and then we measure everything based on that, which means we cannot understand dimensionality. We cannot understand other life forms, other ways of being, other forms of expression, and indeed ourselves, because the self is not who we are. It's always associated with limitation and form. So, loosening up a little bit, not taking ourselves or whatever we define too seriously, but just enjoy the ride, right? Back to that playfulness that we talk about a lot. The more we play, the more we relax. And the more we are just willing to let go of our definitions and rules and say, yeah, it's not really that interesting. And the self, the further you go spiritually, the less interesting it is. And you want to understand the universe from the perspective of the universe, not from the perspective of the self. Because that limits everything to a speck of dust. And so understand that you, what you are as Atma, as soul, cannot be reduced to a speck. Because you exist everywhere. You're an integral part of existence. So like going beyond that obsession with being a point and experiencing from a point, and just like having fun with it, just taking part, letting that happen, and not resisting it.